shutdown and some last-minute negotiations. It looks like the Senate picked up the House bill, and then this trying to whittle down on the $5+ billion put there for border fencing or bollards, whatever it is. The president has shown some give, as he says, enough about the steel. I get the wall. We don't need it 2,000 miles. In fact, we have some there that works. Now, some's got to be replaced. And I do like the idea of this bollard fencing because the Border Patrol has told him, I need to see through it. So he backed off there, but Democrats aren't buying it.
No, they're not. If you listen to the shows yesterday, right, you've got Mick Mulvaney, incoming chief of staff, the budget director still, and then you've got the Democrats. Now, the Democrats have been calling this the Trump shutdown, and obviously we got to a loggerheads, but now the White House, as you mentioned, showing they're willing to give. Well, I don't know where it stands. Listen to some of what we saw yesterday with Mick Mulvaney and Senator Jeff Merkley.
We moved off of the 5. We hope they move up from their 1.3. The ball right now is in their corner. So the Senate Democrats have the ability right now to open the government and agree to the deal.
The American people want us to spend money in a smart way.
Let me be clear. Democrats are not going to agree to any funding to build new border wall. None?
That's correct. None.
Well, I think for a lot of Americans sitting at home, this is what they hate about Congress. It's just the dysfunction. I think a lot of people are seeing what happened with the migrant caravan and seeing people trying to rush the southern border, and they go, aha, this is why we need a wall. This is why we need some sort of physical structure to, prevent people from doing just that. So I think a lot of people are saying this is silliness from Congress.
Because it's all good. When you have a farm bill, which is needed in many respects as you unfold it, is $400 billion. It's so much money. And then you say, okay, how much do we need for the border, which is obviously not a election ploy because the midterms are over. The caravan's still an issue. The chaos is taking place. All these issues are taking place right now, and there is no election. And the video shows it. What I'm just wondering is, there is a miscellaneous portion of the budget. Is there a so-called, what Democrats call a slush fund? There might be other money out there, the $400 million, that might go to on top of the 1.6, that could give the president close to 2. And if he can get $2 billion up from 1.3 billion, that could be considered a win. If the Democrats want to say we kept him from 5 and far from 20, which he wanted, they could consider that a win. But the question is, and you would know best, Lisa, do the Democrats increase their leverage once Nancy Pelosi takes over?
Yes, they do. And that's why I think Congress, they're going to hold off from striking any sort of deal until the next Congress, because they do get additional leverage with a Democrat-controlled January 3rd, with a Democrat-controlled House. So nothing is going to get done until then, in my opinion. But, we wanted to hear from you, and you delivered. So Mike said, I don't care how long it's shut down, build the wall. If it takes a year, build the wall. And that's from a West Virginia coal miner. Thanks for writing in, Mike.
All right, Congress has forgotten that they work for the American people and want a wall, okay?
Straightforward.
All right, so I want to talk about a story that I covered mostly for you guys.
How many weeks?
Gosh, boy, if you go all the way back when I started near the Guatemala-Mexico border, down in the Chiapas state, the Oaxaca state, I traveled with the migrant caravan all the way up, took some time out. There we are there, in the middle of the night with this group. But now they're getting, obviously, to Tijuana, and that's where you saw me most recently. The group that led this, that really drove this, is called Pueblos Sin Fronteras. And their leader, Irineo Mujica, who didn't want to talk to me in the beginning, ended up talking to me by the end of it, because for a time we were the only news organization down there covering them and giving them ability to get their message out. Well, they're under fire from the groups that are supporting the migrants outside of Pueblos Sin Fronteras, mad at that group for giving them false hopes that once they got to that border that they would get an easy access into the U.S. They would be able to get easy asylum and get across, despite the fact that the administration was saying no all the way. So much so that before I left Tijuana, I interviewed the mayor, and he said that he thinks the leader of that group should be arrested for what they did to the migrants.
Because what they told the migrants was, come, it's going to be a lot shorter than you think. We'll be able to get you some rides. There'll be plenty of food and drinks there. And once you get to the border, America will have a process of getting in. What they found is a big stop sign. They found a lot of chaos and a lot of tribulations along the way. And now they find out America doesn't want them there. They said they're going to stay in Mexico. And they said that everything that they were told about this journey is proven incorrect.
Well, and remember, Secretary Nielsen had said that there were 500 criminals among the caravan. I saw a stat, Amnesty International saying that 80% of the women experience rape and sexual assault. And a lot of these women take birth control before going on this trip because those are the kind of conditions that they're going to face. So clearly, very dangerous journey.
I'll tell you one other thing, and that is I had a migrant tell me specifically on camera, I'll have to look and see if I can find it, that he was, now that this has become a mess down there, he's going to wait until a time when the border might be a little more lax. He said Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve while the border is shut down. When all of this is going on, by the way, my colleagues in the media,
they're going nuts.
They basically say that this is administration in chaos. This is Democrats and the media talking about this administration and how they're handling things.
Well, let me just say this. The president, he's unraveled. Things are unraveling. This is more than a wall.
This time.
It's chaotic.
No, he's not behaving like he's fit for office.
We may look back on the Mattis resignation as the beginning of the functional end of this presidency.
This president is not worthy. He should not be there, that he cannot be trusted. He's a liar. He's despicable. We need to get rid of this president.
There's just too much chaos, too many crises going on. I've never seen a situation like this.
So, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I feel like everything with the Trump administration, everything is an 11. Constantly. I mean, since the inception, since President Trump assumed office, it's been everything is an 11. Remember, tax reform was going to be Armageddon. These are the things we've heard consistently. So I have to imagine that for a lot of people at home, they just start to tune it out. When you hear that everything is at 11 constantly, right. I mean, I just think people start to tune it out.
Well, I think that there's so much turnover right now with the new chief of staff. You have the new secretary of defense. We have an acting. We have a new attorney general. We have a nomination. And there might be some other resignations because of Mattis leaving. But Chris Christie sat on the panel, and he's been the voice of sanity. I watch all the Sunday shows. He's always the voice of sanity there. But he's not an apologist. He'll call out President Trump when he has a problem with it. He said, guys, why is anyone surprised? Listen.
What they voted for was Washington to be upended. They hate Washington, D.C.
That certainly happened.
Right? But John, that's my point. You know, this hysteria about, oh, I've never seen chaos like this. This is what the American people voted for. They said that the way Washington was being run by both parties was not effective, and they wanted a disruptor, and now they've got a disruptor. Now, you know, people may decide they don't like this much disruption, but don't tell me this is not what people expected. People who voted for him, and if you talk to people who are supporters of him, they like this.
Griff, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you think, is the Trump administration really that chaotic, or do you think people just pay more attention to these things than they did with the Obama administration or even George W. Bush just because President Trump is who he is by nature?
Look, as an observation, as a reporter that covers this for Fox and Friends every morning, this is an entirely different style of governing, an entirely different thing. And you know, the thing about everyone's making a big deal about the fact that now the president wants Mattis out of there ASAP, but there's a lesson here, too, that you're dealing with the commander-in-chief. The lesson is don't poke the bear. He read the letter and he said, you know what? There's the door.
Has any president been covered like this before?
Probably, if you look back, there was that scrutiny. Remember going all the way back to George Bush in the Iraq War, which reached a fever pitch, and then under Obamacare, we had a fever pitch.
I'll give you credit because as your attorney, you were under no obligation to answer any of those questions. So that was good. So
he didn't plead the fifth, though. Yeah, that's the thing I hear.
But at 11 minutes after the hour, I'm contractually obligated to toss over to Julie.
And I'm here to accept that toss. Good morning.
Without representation?
Yes, well, Griff's there, so, you know.
And I got a hat for you.
Thank you very much. You guys just mentioned Mattis. Let's get you caught up on that situation because Defense Secretary James Mattis has signed orders to pull all U.S. troops out of Syria. That happened overnight. The president announcing last week plans to bring home the 2,000 troops. Mattis resigned after the decision but planned to work through February. The president cutting that short, saying Deputy Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan will take his place January 1st. Police say 2 LSU football players were acting in self-defense when they shot and killed a teenager. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire and Jared Small say they were selling an electronic device to an 18-year-old when the teen pulled a gun. That's when one of them grabbed a gun, shooting and killing the teen. That case is under investigation. A Women's March leader claims she was kicked out of the progressive group for being Jewish. Vanessa Rubel telling the New York Times she was booted after 2 other prominent activists told her Jewish people needed to confront their role in racism. The activists deny that. Rubel is now planning her own march the same day as the Women's March in New York next month. The National Christmas tree will stay dark during the shutdown thanks to a man who tried to climb it. The man damaged the tree when he tried to scale it Friday. and Cruz cannot fix it because of the shutdown. The man was taken to the hospital for a mental evaluation. The site, along with the White House Visitor Center, will stay closed. I will send it back.
Thank you, Jillian.
Can you imagine if the lights went out in someone's house? Man, you got to fix those lights. Oh, well.
All right.
Griffin,
thanks, Jillian.
Yep,
Okay,
good.
Let's
got
do
a job
tease.
to do, my friend.
Senator Chuck Schumer blaming President Trump for the government shutdown.
Throwing a temper tantrum and creating the Trump shutdown will never pass the Senate. Not today, not next week, not next year. So, Mr. President, President Trump, if you want to open the government, you must abandon the wall. Plain and simple.
But he won't. Democrats showing no signs of budging on the border wall as the partial shutdown remains in effect. Our next guest accuses Senator Schumer of a political tantrum in favor of open borders. Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce wants to expand on that. So when the president said it's going to be my shutdown, I'll take credit for it, no one else will. Is he?
I think what he was referring to at that point, and I don't want to get into the mind of the president here, but it's clear that he campaigned on this. Congress knew what he wanted. They know why he was elected. This is something that Congress has voted for before. They've all articulated that border security is important, that barriers work. The American people in every poll say they want border security to be stronger. This is a no-brainer. So here you've got, and so the president is saying, look, I'm standing up for this, right? At the same time, they're blaming the new guy. We've had shutdowns before. These people in Congress have been in there for decades. So there's one constant, and it's people like Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell and people from both sides. And yet they're all pointing a finger at the new guy. So we can look at this. We know, and of course, the difference here, I think, and why they're being so aggressive on this, Congress, is because they know President Trump will get it done. People say, oh, they voted for this before, but it never really happened, did it? They know now there's a man of action in the White House, and this is what frightens them.
A couple of things. Do you believe that the president's getting credit for? He was called out by Nancy Pelosi. He says, you don't have the votes. You don't have the votes in the House. He got the votes in the House, and they got it quick. And all the people just glazed over that. So then they put it back on the Senate. So now it's on the Senate. The conventional thought is if you wait till January 3rd, Nancy Pelosi's in charge, he'll get nothing. However, does Nancy Pelosi have a way out?
Well, I think that there's a lot of things that the Democrats want. This is what's interesting. Leading up to this, the president signed the criminal justice reform bill and the farm bill as well. He's been working with, and his White House has been working with Democrats on getting things that have mattered to them. They actually could, and if the Democrats were interested in governing, which they never are, this is the president they can work with. And so I think that there's things that he can use. I mean, he's a master negotiator. We should expect that. And I've mentioned this before. The president does well with a foil. He does well when he needs to negotiate. He will do very well in this new environment. But Americans are going to find out that the Democrats are not serious, and they haven't been serious for quite some time.
You think this is all about messaging for 2020?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is this continuing resolution is hundreds of billions of dollars. The $5 billion is nothing in comparison. This is all politics right now. It's like they're all peacocks and they're wandering around. They're not thinking about the people's lives that are at stake, both from South and Central America moving through this chaos, and then for American families. They care about being on television. They care about the nature of the signaling to their base, the hard end of their base. And this is what they've always done, and this is why Donald Trump is president.
And Tammy, here's why you're right. Chuck Schumer said as much last Sunday when he said this is going to be a good issue for us in 2020.
Exactly.
Really?
That's all they see it as.
Get to work.
They've lost touch with the fact that these are real people's lives in a real country that matters.
She is Tammy Bruce. Have a great Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. All right, straight ahead. The stock market may be rattled, but consumer confidence is soaring and the GDP is rising. So what is the real status of the economy? Anthony Scaramucci has a lot of money. He's coming up soon. And a little boy's Christmas wish comes true. His Army dad comes home early and surprises him at school. Father and son here live.
Griff, Lisa, Brian, as you can imagine, Christmas Eve in Bethlehem is a combination of religious ceremonies and also a celebration for many tourists at the birthplace of Jesus Christ. You can hear off in the distance right now the call to prayer. We are in the West Bank. And additionally, behind me, quite the juxtaposition, some Christmas music in Arabic. Just now, the Latin Patriarch procession arrived here in Bethlehem from Jerusalem. I do want to show you the scene behind me where thousands have gathered in Manger Square. Many of these tourists and some of them locals here to celebrate Christmas Eve. Many of them will be here later tonight as the tree is lit in Manger Square. And also there are those celebrations and masses taking place outside the Basilica of the Nativity. Now, recently there has been an uptick in violence in the region. So there is heightened security here at this event as people do celebrate the Christmas season. Back to you.
Trey, thank you. And I'll tell you, it couldn't be at a more historic, significant place than right there. Thank you very much, Trey.
I would say so, Bethlehem. All right, 24 minutes now after the hour.
All right, when 6-year-old Abel Towers Zeller wrote to Santa this year, he had a pretty big wish about his dad in the Army. His letter said, quote, "I wish for my daddy to come home and for my family to stay healthy." Well, Santa came through big time this week when this happened.
Oh my God.
All right, here to tell us about it, the people that lived it, Abel and his dad, Army Private Timothy Zeller. Welcome, guys. Good to see you.
Say good morning, buddy.
Good morning.
All right, and you're seeing yourself on camera.
Of course.
And Tim, first off.
Brian has the same reaction.
Yes, I did. But that was an unbelievable scene.
Oh, yeah.
What was going through? Bring us to that moment where you set up with the school that you're going to do the surprise.
Well, we decided a few days before. We originally just wanted to show up to his classroom and surprise him. And then the school contacted us saying they wanted to do an assembly and do everything. And then next thing you know, we showed up in the morning. He had News 12 there. He had a bunch of newspapers there. So it was sitting there waiting because we heard all the kids in the gym. Yeah. And then it was finally time to run inside. And then just his face, his jaw just dropped when he finally realized it was me walking into the gym.
And so Abel, and so you wrote to Santa and you asked for your daddy to come home. When you saw your dad, what went through your mind?
I was like,
were you surprised?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're 6 years old, aren't you? Wow, you're a big boy. That's so exciting.
Right.
Hey, Abel, can I ask you one more thing? Now that you got your dad, it's not yet Christmas. You've still got 24 hours. Do you want something else from Santa?
What was the one thing you asked Santa for besides Daddy coming home? What was that one present that you told him when we saw him the other day? What was it? Was it the puppies or whatever? You gotta say it.
What was it?
It was a
What was the name of it? You told Daddy,
puppy?
you told Mommy?
Yeah. Now, Private, what's it like being away? In January, you went away, you were deployed, right?
Oh, well, January I went into basic just last year, yeah.
How hard has it been?
It's rough, definitely with the distance, especially because by the time I get out of work and try to video chat, it's already 10 o'clock at night back home. By the time I'm getting out, it's only like 6 or 7. So that makes it rough, definitely.
And he was able to draw you pictures every day, right?
Almost, yeah. Even in basic, like when I would get letters, there would be some kind of drawing and all that stuff, and I still keep them back in California with me.
Well, and what I think is so sweet is that Abel says that he tells his friends about you being in the Army, and he says that you're helping the United States. So clearly, you're very proud of your dad, as you should be.
You tell him all the time. You tell everybody when they ask where.
Yeah.
What do you tell him?
It's okay. You can tell him, buddy.
I don't remember.
I think a lot of seeing himself on the monitor. He's loving it.
We got to take a commercial break here. Thanks for coming here, but can you just look at the camera and say Merry Christmas, America?
Merry Christmas, America.
Good job.
All right, and you got your dad back, right?
Yep.
And thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your service and Merry Christmas to you.
Enjoy Christmas.
Good job, Abel. You did a great job.
All right.
All right. Meanwhile.
The left slamming President Trump after he announces Defense Secretary Mattis will be out January 1st. But is the reaction overblown. Former White House communications.
He's here.
It'll take me less than 11 days, but I'll break that thing up. Go ahead.
All right, so Anthony, of course, your book is still out, and it is Trump, the blue-collar president, and that really personifies why he's successful, why it resonates with so many working class and so many in the middle America. But let's talk about some of the messaging coming out of the White House.
Sure.
They see what's happening with the markets. They see what's happening with Mattis. They see what's happening with the trade deals, and they think it's chaos. Is it?
It's not chaos. It's basically the president is probably one of the few people that's willing to play a long game as opposed to all these little blips and ticks in the market. Long game on trade, long game on Middle East strategy. I mean, one of the reasons why he's pulling out, you saw it right here. He doesn't want to put these people in harm's way unnecessarily. In his opinion, he's decimated ISIS, and it's time to pass the baton on to people in the region to secure the rest of the
They have
situation.
different objectives. That's the problem.
Yeah, I understand that, but here's the thing. You know, we can't be everything to everybody, Brian, and so I think the president recognizes that. And you know, you're spending $1 trillion of debt. And I'm with the president on this. I'm with Rand Paul and the president on this. And you know, people are upset with me because it's outside of the neocon and it's outside of the traditional Republican stuff. But I've been to these places. You know, I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to Iraq. I'm not saying that we have to have a complete withdrawal, but I totally understand where the president's coming from. And I wrote a piece in the Atlantic Council on Friday as to why adventurism and this whole neocon strategy has been not that successful.
But one thing, though, and Brian raised this a little bit, and that is the military. This is what the media is really focusing on, is the fact that the president's not listening to the military advisors. I think General Mattis has an unquestioned and perhaps unparalleled experience. He took us into Afghanistan, and then he took us into Iraq, and he says stay.
I have an enormous amount of respect for General Mattis. There's no question about that. But I also recognize where the president's going and where the intersection needs to be. He's going to leave levels of troops in Afghanistan. You know, we have way more troops in Iraq. We scaled it down. That was an incorrect decision by the Obama administration. Had to be scaled back up. But, you know, we were supposed to be in Syria for a few months, and now it's been 3 years, and it's this drag. And I'll point out that what John F. Kennedy once said, you know, you have to be very careful. You know, we have a military industrial complex that's established, and you know, the impulse is to fight. But sometimes the better impulse is not to fight. Think of what John Kennedy did in those cabinet meetings during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Curtis LeMay wanted to wipe out Cuba. Kennedy asked him, how big would the casualties be? 150 million people. He looked over at his brother and said, "Didn't they call this a human race?" And so I really admire and respect the president having some restraint.
But
all of those impulses.
Just so you know, Anthony, we've lost 3 guys in 3 years. 3 too many, I get it. But they're supporting and killing terrorists. They're trying to kill us here. Especially as a New Yorker.
I understand the situation with the Kurds. You know, you and I may disagree on this. You know, I respect you immensely. But here's the problem. When you're in that decision and you're the commander-in-chief and you're looking at the entire landscape of what you need to do and you're looking at our resources, the president's done a very good job, in my opinion, playing the long game. And so, you know, the market is a little haywire right now. It's a little uncertain about trade. There's algo trading in there. I think the market's at a bottom. I'm running $11.5 billion, and hopefully you'll invite me back in a few weeks. You'll see the market start to rally.
And let's stay on that, because Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, was calling around U.S. banks trying to reassure them everything is okay. So what is the state of the economy today?
So now
and is
everybody's
the
criticizing.
administration nervous about it?
Okay, so now everybody's criticizing Stephen for doing that. And so if he didn't do that, people would be criticizing him for not doing it. But the truth of the matter is, it's a totally appropriate thing for him to do, to call around to the banks because of what happened in 2008. The best thing about the United States, though, is we restructured our banks and we strengthened the balance sheet of those banks. Look at what's going on in the European banking system. And by the way, no one talks about this, but look at the devastation taking place in China. That stock market's down 35%. The currency's getting crushed. What the president has basically shown people is that the United States, with 25% of the GDP, is still in control of the global economy. He would just like fairness in trade. He's not looking for anything aggressive. He's just saying, hey, your tariffs are up here, ours are down here, move yours down, or we're going to move ours up. So I don't understand why that is such a big deal
I think it's
to all of these people. He's playing a long game, and so it's upsetting the markets temporarily. But you got to give this guy credit for seeing this thing out for 1, 2, 3, 5 years.
Whether it's
He's trying to adjust a 45, 50-year trade imbalance.
Whether it's trade or what's going on in Syria. Yesterday, Governor Chris Christie, you know him, was on the Sunday shows, and he says this whole style of governing, no one should have been surprised. Take a quick listen to this.
What they voted for was Washington to be upended. They hate Washington, D.C.
That certainly happened.
Right? But John, that's my point. You know, this hysteria about, oh, I've never seen chaos like this. This is what the American people voted for. They said that the way Washington was being run by both parties was not effective, and they wanted a disruptor, and now they've got a disruptor. Now, you know, people may decide they don't like this much disruption, but don't tell me this is not what people expected. People who voted for him, and if you talk to people who are supporters of him, they like this.
Anthony, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add 2 paragraphs to what the governor just said. The president's policies, by and large, step back, are all common sense related. They're actually quite moderate. There's nothing too aggressive about it. He would like border security. The Democrats have now used the wall as a symbol to defeat the president. In the meantime, they used to be for border security. Now, all of a sudden, they're not for border security. The president is about using the military to do strategic things to secure national security and peace for the United States. He's a pretty moderate, common sense oriented guy. The president's about right-sizing the trade deals. So these guys in Washington hate his guts for a reason. Right. He's not from them, and he cannot be bought.
I have a prediction.
Okay, and you know what? Good for him. Merry Christmas, Mr. President. Thank God we got you in there.
Within 90 days, he pulls off that China deal. Yeah, you're going to see the market boom in a way in which no one could predict.
Not only
the right way.
By the way, the market is at a bottom, so you know you'll remember I said that, okay? Because I look at all those technicals and fundamentals. I may have not been the best White House communications director, but let me tell you something. Okay? I've been running money for 30 years, and the market has been oversold by all these technical algorithms. And Steven Mnuchin is doing the right thing by letting everybody know that we're liquid, and there's no reason to overly panic here.
Right.
I expect the market to rally off.
Thank you. That's going to be for Christmas.
Passbook savings.
Yeah, your passbook saying this guy is so loaded, you have no idea. Okay? And the rest of these people know he's a little bit of a miser like Scrooge.
We always compare hedge funds in the break.
He's George Bailey with a Scrooge like, you know,
I don't even know what he's talking about. All of a sudden,
the American people know. The American people know, Brian.
Jillian, if you don't take it, you'll never get it. Just
American people know.
If you're so loaded, sharing is caring, and it is. Thank you, Anthony.
Now everybody knows.
All right, we do have some serious news to get to, guys. So let's start with this. At least 281 people are dead and more than 1,000 hurt after a volcano triggers a tsunami off the coast of Indonesia. Look at this. Rescue crews digging through rubble as they frantically search for survivors. Authorities are warning more tsunamis could strike. President Trump tweeting in part, quote, "We are praying for recovery and healing. America is with you." And how about this? A woman chases a porch pirate and records it all on her cell phone. Watch it.
Did you just steal something? Give it. Yes, you did. I saw you. You the wrong person.
Oh, don't mess with her. She says she spotted the thief near her Colorado home and ran after her. As you could see, the woman eventually gave the package back. There's a lesson in that. Senator Rand Paul airs his grievances, keeping the Seinfeld Festivus tradition alive.
A Festivus for the rest of us. You gather your family around and tell them all the ways they have disappointed you over the past year.
The Republican from Kentucky fed up with wasteful spending, tweeting this doctored picture of Senator Ted Cruz. And this message, quote, "Congress has now decided to shut down the government because they aren't spending enough money. I got suspicious when Ted Cruz came back from Thanksgiving break with that beard." Look at that beard. All right. And how about this, too? There's a tasty new version of Monopoly just in time for Christmas. Hasbro releasing Pizza Monopoly. The revised board game classic even comes in a pizza box. Players buy up pizzas instead of properties. The game costs $20. Could go for some pizza right now. That's all.
I know. I was going to say I have to play that game.
But don't eat it.
We'll do it, Jillian.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't eat it. All right.
All right. Thanks, Jillian. 17 minutes now before the top of the hour.
Members of the caravan calling out the group who led them to the border. Michelle Malkin says now we should prosecute at the border, now blasting caravan leaders, accusing them of downplaying the risks of the journey. Migrants also say organizers encourage them to keep heading staying here despite Mexico's offer of asylum.
Columnist and author Michelle Malkin joins us now to react to it all. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
So, Michelle, how dangerous truly is this journey for migrants?
Well, it's a deadly journey, and it is a trek that these migrant caravan organizers have been responsible for years now. I think that thanks to the attention that President Trump has given to the dangers of these kinds of journeys, that we're finally hearing from the victims themselves. You know, people like me have been reporting on this for upwards of 25 years now, and every time that we point out the fact that these enablers, these aiders and abettors are putting these lives at risk by inducing people to make this journey, we're accused of being racists or xenophobes.
Right.
Now that these victims themselves are voicing frustration with these people who are using them and exploiting them, maybe there will be real human rights changes that are made as a result of this.
Well,
and I do believe, as you teased in the segment just a few minutes ago, that these people should be prosecuted.
But that's what I want to ask you about, Michelle, because as I was down in Tijuana and we put these migrants on the air saying that they wanted Pueblo Sin Fronteras and these leaders to be held accountable, even the mayor of Tijuana, Gastelum, said he wants the organizers prosecuted. But how do you do it? Do you do it through the UN? How do you prosecute them, and what's going to stop them?
Well, I think that you use any body out there, whether it is the UN, which itself should be prosecuted, I believe, because they are the biggest transnational open borders enablers of them all, or we try seriously in our country to do something about it, because these groups, which operate outside, also have co-conspirators inside our borders. Pueblo Sin Fronteras is loosely connected to an organization in Chicago, which has been responsible for bringing people into the country illegally and then providing them sanctuary. People might remember Elvira Arellano, who holed up in a church in Chicago in defiance of deportation orders for years, making a mockery during the Obama years of our laws, and now is an activist who is responsible for helping draw these people, more people, into our country illegally. And under Chapter 8, Section 1342 of our Immigration and Nationality Act, it is illegal to aid, abet, and induce people to cross the borders illegally.
Oh, I was going to add something, but maybe we can Noriega this guy, just go grab him, bring him here, or ask Mexico to do what Canada did for us with this Chinese executive. Just grab them, because I feel bad for these people. Are naive, they're victims. They think that this is going to be the promised land, and they find out they get a big stop sign. Michelle, now your mission is one thing: have a great Christmas with your family. Can you do that?
You too. I will. Take care. Always bringing you Christmas cheer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll take it. Merry Christmas.
All right. 11 minutes now before the top of the hour. The government shutdown could stretch into the new year. But how long do you think it should last? Your comments are pouring in.
And the shutdown isn't stopping Santa Claus. NORAD is tracking Santa as he travels across the globe. So where is he now? A journey across the globe. So where is he now?
All right. Lieutenant General Christopher Coates is the NORAD deputy commander. He joins us live from the NORAD Command Center. And again, the people at NORAD giving up their Christmas to track Santa for us. Thanks so much.
He only stops at houses when the children are asleep.
We're probably not. Are you actually hearing us?
Good morning. How are you all today?
Good. Well, how are you, sir?
Great. What is Santa's biggest hurdle?
Good morning.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Well, I would say he's got a heck of a task in front of him, delivering probably billions of gifts all over the world in just 24 hours. I mean, that seems to me to be the biggest challenge. Some might think figuring out who's been naughty and nice is tough, but that's perhaps one of his easier tasks.
General, we need to know, where is Santa right now, and is he close to the U.S.?
Oh, no, unfortunately, he's not close to the United States yet. He's just left the Kuril Islands down in the South Pacific, and he's on his way up to Russia, is what our sensors are telling us at the moment. He's probably going to do Asia. We don't know his exact plan, but he's probably going to do Asia and then move his way over to Europe, sort of follow the setting sun, as it were, and then find his way across the Atlantic into North America after that.
So, General, the tradition started by a mistake. Can you tell us a little bit about how it started?
Sure. Before there was NORAD, we had Continental Air Defense Command, and they were operating their operations center, and Colonel Shoup was on duty. There was a number for people to call in the local paper to to talk to Santa, actually. I think it was placed by Sears at the time, and unfortunately it was the wrong number, and it rang in the operations center. And Colonel Shoup answered, and there was a small boy asking where Santa was, and Colonel Shoup didn't miss a beat and started to answer, because of course NORAD was, or CONAD, Continental Air Defense, was tracking where everything was at the time, so he just filled in and let the little boy know where Santa was. And we've continued that tradition on from 1955 right up till today.
Wow. And finally, what do you say to kids that are worried that the government shutdown is going to shut down this tracking?
Well, NORAD, we operate 24/7, 365 days a year, so we're not affected. NORAD tracks Santa.